Hello people and welcome back to the Fantasy Football Face YouTube channel. I'm your host FPL Phillips and it's that time of the week, it's Friday, and we've got another episode of Eddie versus the algorithm for you. And as I'm recording this, there is some big news in the FPL world. Ollie Watkins could well be out of game week 29, having picked up an injury in the Europa League football. So Emery's made a comment on that. We're going to discuss it with the new and updated free hit draft from the algorithm. This is going to be the latest one you're probably going to see coming to you midday on a Friday if you're watching this just when it's come out. But yeah, the algorithm team no longer has Ollie Watkins in it. This is the draft it's gone for instead. After last week, if you don't know, I'm taking on the algorithm for every week of the season. It did actually beat me last week. The score is now getting a little bit closer. Let's see if the algorithm can pick up another victory and do better than me in a free hit face-off for game week 29. And obviously with this series, it's not going to be as relevant for every single game week of the season, but finally my time has come where most people, or a lot of people this week at least, are using the free hit chip, and this series is going to hit its max usefulness, I suppose, if that's even the correct word to use in this instance. So yeah, we've got the free hit draft from the computer that we're going to see first, and it is now a 3-5-2 formation following the news surrounding Ollie Watkins. Now, the exact quote from Emery does say that they don't really know what the injury is from Ollie Watkins and he could be available for Sunday. But I suppose if you're on a free hit, you're probably not going to take that chance, and you either are going to start Watkins and have a very strong sub at least. But either way, I still think you're probably going to have the edge over the people who aren't free hitting, because you could get, very slim chance, I think, or a slimmer chance that Watkins is going to start. And most people this week aren't going to have the luxury of having anyone on the bench to come on if he doesn't feature in that match. So I think the free hit just did get a tiny tinsy bit more valuable. We'll have to wait and see what comes of that news, because I'm sure we'll get an updated report before the deadline as to what is going on with Watkins' injury. But we need to start at the back of the pitch as always, and the goalkeeper that the algorithm has gone for is going to be Flecken of Brentford. And now Burnley are probably the weakest attack of the bunch to kind of target if you're looking to target a clean sheet this game week. Brentford definitely aren't the strongest defence. They're hoping to have, Reguilon back, but Reguilon is a very attacking defender anyway. I'm not sure he's going to be much of a boost to them defensively. And personally, I think there's very slim chance of really any team keeping a clean sheet in this one. So I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference who you go for in goal. It might just very well be a luck of the draw, and the odds do seem to favour Flecken as to why he's in a team that is based solely on statistics. In defence, we're going to see Pedro Porro, Reguilon and Doughty, and I think this is going to be the most popular defence that you'll see on a free hit draft if that Reguilon is confirmed to be available for the game against Burnley, so a double up on the Brentford defence. Doughty picking up an assist last time out, could have maybe had two as well. He's really just in there for the attacking returns, as is his mate over on the other side, Pedro Porro. So three very, very attacking defenders. As we've seen with defenders so far this season, really, attacking returns are almost king. Clean sheets have been pretty difficult to come by, with the exception of a few teams such as Arsenal proving more reliable than others. But of course, they don't have a game this week. Of all the teams where there's some chance of clean sheets, we're going to target the most attacking defenders. And although it might seem a little bit boring and template, these three are probably the best ones to go for. We'll see who I've gone for in just a moment, though. In midfield, we're going to see the obvious Heung-min Son captaincy that every man, woman and dog is going to have the armband on this week. He just seems like the obvious candidate. I think a lot of people who don't own him will be transferring him in solely just to put the armband on. But I think his ownership is going to be pretty high, as we're going to see later on when we do compare the possible captains for this week. We've then got two West Ham midfielders in here, Bowen and Kudus. And now West Ham are another team who've had some action in midweek. Paqueta scoring, but going off and having a little bit of an injury. Being managed by David Moyes, says he didn't want to make an injury any worse. So that could be obviously not only a big hit to Paqueta, potentially. We'll have to see if there's any more news on that. But also to Kudus and Bowen, because I think West Ham are a significantly better side when Paqueta is on the pitch for them, as we've kind of seen throughout this season. We've then got Douglas Luiz, who does have that added advantage of penalties for Villa. I think they're going to be going into that game without Ollie Watkins, though. That will be a pretty big hit for them. So who's going to come out on top of West Ham and Villa if, those two are missing, or only if one of them's missing, it could, well, very much vary depending on injury news, who's going to be the favourite going into that one. But I still do like Douglas Luiz. It's not a home fixture, which people seem to get obsessed over him being better at Villa Park than he is away from home. But we've seen in only a few games ago when Douglas Luiz was brought in by quite a lot of managers, he managed to pick up, a brace in that game. So, yeah, Douglas Luiz hasn't got the best underlying data. We know that. But he can always pop up with a goal. He seems to be that kind of player, like, not Rodri, but almost in that kind of category, and that kind of player where he's just getting up and popping up with that goal when you kind of don't expect him to. And then finally, we've got Maddison, who's going to be pretty much more of a template pick. So he's in the middle as maybe that slot in his side, or a Kudus, or, most people have 4 midfielders. So those ones are going to be the ones where you go a bit more differential. Maddison, Bowen and Son, I think, will be in a lot of teams, and for good reason. Spurs, I think the attacking double up, so the 2 midfielders and the 1 defender combo, is probably going to be the one that is going to offer you the most upside. And Maddison and Son are the 2 to really go for in there. So yeah, obvious pick again in the midfield. Up front, we're going to see Morris and Tony, so the absence of Ollie Watkins, who does drop out to make this a 3-5-2. I can't remember which of the midfielders wasn't in beforehand, but you can check up the updated side over on the Fantasy Football Fix website at any time. It'll be posted on all the socials too, if there are any late changes. Maybe Watkins comes back in if there's some positive press conference news surrounding him. But we've got Morris and we've got Tony, 2 very, very template, kind of for the free hit forwards, both on penalties as well for their respective sides. Morris picked up a goal last time out, could have had a goal last time out from that Doherty chance that was created, and Tony hasn't been in the best form as of late, not picking up as many returns as a lot of people would like to see and maybe expected when he first burst back into the Brentford lineup. But I still think, he's got that upside of penalties, and the vice-captain's armband, in fact, it's on Ivan Toney over any other player you can see in the starting lineup. So yeah, the algorithm very, very clearly backing him. On the bench, we've got Fofana coming in. We've got Kufal as well, and Robinson of Fulham, which is an interesting pick. Going with Fofana as a Burnley forward, I did see he was quite high up on the list of predicted points. I don't think he's personally too bad of a shout, but when you go for a Burnley forward, there's very, very limited what you can expect. But, if you're on a free hit, this is the week to just try and have some fun. And maybe if you're getting the right vibes from a Burnley forward, then you can go there. But it's 51 predicted points for the algorithm this week. It's now only 6 points behind, or 6 weeks behind, so definitely a chance to get back into it. It has got a pretty good run, albeit. Let's see the team I've put together to take on the computer for this game week. And this is my side. I've gone with Kaminski in goal, just feeling the vibes on him after the last performance over Flecken, to be honest. A little bit weird. I've also just gone for a weird punt in defence. I've gone for a Dougie over going for Pedro Porro. Just got a little bit of a gut feeling, and to be honest, I did just want to be a little bit different and not just have the same exact defence. So I've stuck a Dougie in, and I'm just hoping that he ends up outscoring Porro in this game week. In midfield, I've gone a little bit safer. I have stuck with the 2 Spurs boys. I just think it'd be a little bit stupid not to. I have gone with Paqueta in my midfield as well, which is a little bit of a risk considering I've also got Watkins. So 2 players who their injury status is up in the air. If you're watching this on the Friday, you've got the luxury of being able to have the very most up-to-date news, and so you could change this depending on. I've got some players on the bench that I may have to rely on. I'm hoping that at a max, one of them misses out, and then Gibbs White can come in to complete a double-up of Nottingham Forest midfielders, so Alanga and Gibbs White. Was very close to going for Iwobi as well. They're kind of my favourites for the differential pick this week. And then up front, instead of going with Tony, I just, again, kind of getting the vibes with Visser. So I've gone with him to partner alongside Watkins and Morris. So yeah, 48 predicted points for me, a little bit behind the algorithm. But let's have a final look at one more thing before we wrap up the video, and that is the captaincy stats for this game week. And here are the captaincy stats from the Matrix as usual. We've got Heung-min Son coming in on 5.7, 4.9 and 4.9. So tied for Tony and Watkins in terms of predicted points. Now this was taken before the time of the Watkins injury. Obviously with some news that might affect it. So you could head over and check out any player's predicted points for that matter at the Fantasy Football Fix website by using the links down below in the description. But looking fixture-wise, the West Ham fixture, despite being grey, is the strongest game to target this week. The expected goals conceded are them 1.88 compared to Burnley's 1.83, which is interesting. We've then got Fulham, not too far behind actually on 1.79, so three, not too different defences in terms of the data. In terms of attacking sides, Aston Villa do look the strongest, 1.91 XG for them. Spurs are in at second, and then Brentford being the poorest of the bunch. But when we look at individuals, it's 6.38 for Heung-min Son, putting him a little bit of a margin ahead of Watkins and definitely ahead of Ivan Toney in the stats. And at the end of the day, that's kind of what counts. Individual data, targeting a strong fixture. I just think Heung-min Son, with the news surrounding Watkins, you're probably, almost certainly not going to want to risk him with the captaincy unless he's confirmed back and fit, which seems very unlikely. I think the Heung-min Son, it just makes all the sense in the world to stick the armband on him for this game week, and that's kind of all there is to it. Let me know if you guys have got any differential picks, maybe even a differential captain's armband that you're going for this week if you're on a free hit, and if you aren't on a free hit, which transfers are you doing to try and get your team as close to the 11 players as possible. Thank you very much for tuning in to this week's episode of Eddie versus the Algorithm. Make sure to subscribe if you're new around here and you did enjoy. Then you can leave a thumbs up on the video as well as turning on that notification bell. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I wish you all a green arrow for Game Week 29. I'll see ya. Goodbye.